Then you get to the editing and you're like, this is terrible. I'm in this pit of despair trying to crawl myself out.
Hi there, Edibuddies. Welcome to the Edibuddies podcast. This episode is brought to you by
the pit of despair. Don't even think.
Don't even think about trying to escape.
This month, I was hoping to give you a 2-for-1 episode because I'm interviewing two incredible people at once. But our conversation ran a little long, and it's all fantastic, so this is going to be our first 2-for-2 two-part episode. Kristin Helling and J.R. Frontera are indie authors, self-publishers, and close friends who have spent years on the self-publishing grind. They've got some incredible insights, and this is one of those conversations where I just let them take me where they wanted to go, and I'm really glad I did because I learned a ton. A little note, normally I start with the guests introducing themselves, but this time we just spent the first few minutes talking about a conference they were both attending and some of the recent changes made by Amazon that upset a lot of self-publishers. I left this portion in because it leads to a really interesting discussion about the trials of indie marketing in general. But don't worry, Jeni and Kristin will introduce themselves a little later in the episode. I hope you love it, and I hope you stick around for part 2 next month. So what normally happens at that conference? Because I've heard you guys talking about it, but I don't really know anything about it.
You basically you're in panels all day, but the main gig is networking. So in between the sessions, lunch, dinner, they have like every single industry professional from indie marketing, indie publishing industry.
Right. Like Draft Digital, Podium audiobooks, I don't know if Google Play is coming this year. They actually have Amazon there this year, which is super interesting because last year Amazon was supposed to come and then canceled.
Yep.
And like all the other years they were like, psh. And I think it's funny that now they're like, oh, we're going to come to the conference, and it's like, yeah, why? Yeah, now you.
Now that people are really pissed off at Amazon.
They know indies are starting to get. Exactly. They're like trying to like.
They know indies are starting to get big, but also they probably don't want to be like, don't kill the messenger, like bombarded by all of us being like,
they're going to get
screwing
slammed. I know they're going to get slammed. And Craig's like, don't be mean. Don't be mean. I'm like, I'm going to be mean. Like, I'm not going to be that mean because I do realize they're just employees. They're not responsible for this crap. But I'm going to like let them know how unhappy I am and that they need to go tell their superiors about this because this is nonsense.
They're probably like, oh crap, Jim, I got the author conference.
I know. Like, we're gonna die. They're probably like, you realize they're gonna murder us, right?
They're like fighting in the like conference room who's gonna have to go and deal with it.
Right? Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I do feel sorry for them. I did have not last year, I think, but the year that they had it before it got canceled for COVID, they did have Amazon reps there, like a few of them drifting around and like, so it was sort of random, but I ended up being able to get a one-on-one with one of them. So I had like this laundry list and I was like, okay, this happened, this, you need to fix this. This is stupid, blah, blah, blah. And he was like taking notes and he acted like he didn't know any of what I was saying. So I'm just like, he had no idea that any of this was happening. And I'm just like, I feel like that's the case over there. They just have no idea.
They're so separated from the people who are using the platform.
Exactly. Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
What's the name of the conference?
It's called 20 Books Vegas.
20 Books Vegas.
So it's run by 20 Books to 50K, which is the huge group on Facebook. I don't know if you're in that group. I am in it, but I never check it because it's just way too big, essentially. And there's just too much going on all the time. And honestly, most of the stuff there, I don't give a crap about. But
there's good info sometimes, though.
Yeah, like, yeah. And I mean, it's a lot of, people posting like, I made $100,000 this month and yay.
Yeah, they're trying to encourage people by their success. And so
right, which is good, but then also bad because nobody ever talks about all the time before they hit that. So like it can give a false impression of like, do this and then you'll make hundreds of thousands of dollars, when like that's not the case for 98% of people. So
yeah, everybody's journey is totally different. So if like it works for one person, it might not work for you because there are a million variables,
right,
time, genre, like what you've done to get to that point. Everything is totally non-relevant to another person's journey. And so it's like people can tell you about how they succeeded, and maybe they give you an idea or they inspire you, or you can branch off of it in some way, or you could be like, oh, I didn't think about that. But doing exactly what they did is not going to give you their result.
Yeah.
Right. And I do feel like too many people literally say, do this exact thing and I guarantee you will be successful. And it's like, no, that's
and a lot of people make a lot of money off of authors by giving that information out.
Right. They're like, I have the magic button.
Yes.
Pay me a couple $100 and I'll teach it to you. Just follow this process and you will have magical success. It's like, yes, that did work for you. Yeah. But it's not working for all these other people.
It's so hard too, because especially, you know, like new authors who are really excited and really passionate, like they have the dream and they're like, I want to publish. I want to be out there in the world. Somebody please give me a roadmap because I'm so passionate about this. And it's kind of like, there's no, even if you can try to follow this person's roadmap, or you can read Stephen King's books, or you can, you can do whatever it is that you think is going to help you, but ultimately you have to forge your own path. And that's really, really hard to
it is especially hard. Yeah. In the beginning. Yeah. Because also it's so much stuff, it's like overwhelming. So it's like you don't even know where to start. Like you're just standing there like, I'm completely lost, which is why it is good. Yeah.
And in the beginning
to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And then along the way you can at least, you can change things to like fit your specific
and in the beginning you're told so many times that like you have to keep hustling before you even begin to get any traction. So in the beginning, you're like, oh, all I have to do is write this book. No, they're like, you won't even start selling until you have a whole series out and have all these things lined up. So you're like looking ahead. It's overwhelming because you're looking ahead and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to write this 60,000 word book, which is a short book. And and that's not even, you're not even at ground zero doing that. Like you are like having like they're just like, you won't even begin to gain traction or make any money or even put yourself on the map until you've got your first book free that offers your
the reader magnet and the funnel and the newsletter and the website and it's like, oh my god,
don't even try to write a new series that doesn't connect to your old series in any way because you're starting over.
Right. You have to start back at less than ground zero.
Do you guys think that I feel like there are a lot of people who are very good writers and who write very good books whose books will never see the light of day because they don't have the other skills that are required to really find readership. And then on the flip side, I feel like there are a lot of things that are maybe being published and maybe getting readership that aren't necessarily like the best or the, like the pinnacle of like writing. But because those people do have the marketing skills or social media skills or are good with connecting with an audience, they're going to be able to find readership even when people who, it's not necessarily about having the best possible writing. Like you're saying, it's kind of this whole package that you have to develop on your own.
Yeah. Yeah.
Super true. Like look at like Stephanie Meyer or E.L. James. Like those books are not, or even Suzanne Collins. Like these books are not good, but there's no their writing is problematic, but the story is good.
Yes.
And so that's
some people think the story is good. Yes. Clearly. Yes.
So it propels its books, but yeah, it's the package and you're selling yourself essentially. and not necessarily your product. Like
Mm-hmm.
it is crazy though, like what you say is completely true.
Mm-hmm.
Because I always think like, okay, craft first. But you're right. When you're a great marketer and you've got visibility, the craft doesn't matter as much.
Yeah, it doesn't. It can kind of depend on your goals too, because yeah, I've been having a lot of conversations around this particular topic actually in some of my other writer groups, because there are a growing number of authors who are getting fed up with Amazon, who are realizing that the publish a book a month rapid release schedule is not long-term sustainable, at least for them, who are realizing that in order to keep a schedule like that, their books have to be, I've started calling them potato chip books. So like they're satisfying in a way, but they're not really filling, I guess. You know, they're like a snack, which a lot of binge readers, which, you know, are like KU readers, people who plow through like a book a day, that's perfect for them, right? They just want a bunch of these like easy, fast reads. They can read like 100 books, you know, no big deal. But how much do each of those books necessarily stand out to them? You know, are they going to remember that book or that author? Are they going to seek out more of that particular author's books? Are they going to go tell all their friends about it? Probably not. They're just going to keep going to the next thing. And a lot of the authors I've been talking to lately kind of don't like that. Like they're kind of like, I'm not sure that makes me happy as an author. And I know for me, it's like never like that. Actually, I don't want that. Like I want, if a reader reads my book, I want them to get obsessed. I want them to like try to look me up and find more books by me. I want them to remember the thing, you know, so I want them more invested, I guess. But in order, I feel like, to write books that are going to get more of that reaction, that it is much more difficult to write something like that in a month, essentially, even if it's a short book, just because it's just, I don't know, it just takes, you just have to like dig down further, I guess, or something. So it can depend on your goals. Like if you do not mind writing the potato chip style books or whatever and getting those binge readers, you know, then it totally works. But if you're writing, you know, epic novels that are much deeper, more like, you know, meteor kind of things, and that you want a different kind of reader, they're harder to find. It's going to be a much slower build, but it's like you have to take a whole different approach, I feel like. Yeah. And I think more authors are sort of going more that direction. I think it's almost like they want to do something a little different, I think, which is really interesting.
I think that ties back really to what you were saying too about, you know, you have to forge your own path. Like there may be some authors who do the potato chip thing and love it, and they just love cranking out, you know, whatever they can and getting up there and getting those kind of readers, and that's their niche, and that's great. And if you follow that kind of path, you're going to be great. But if you're not that kind of writer and you try to follow that path, you are going to hate writing in a very short time.
Exactly. And then you'll be miserable. And then it's like, once you get to that point, you know, why don't you just go get a different job? Because if you're not having fun writing the books, like what is the point? You know, just go work somewhere else is what I get in that rut a lot, where I feel like I enjoy having been written. Right. Not necessarily the process, but having it in my hand and being like, I did this. But like the process is grueling. And each step of the way, you're like, first of all, you have no choice, because you have this curse where you have these ideas in your head that you have to get out. And the avenue that you have chosen is words on a screen or paper. So like, it's like, you have to write this. So then you write it and you're like, it's so hard to write this first draft. When I'm done, when I write the end, the editing is going to be so much better, so much easier. Then you get to the editing and you're like, this is terrible. I'm in this pit of despair trying to crawl myself out. And so it's like, once the project is done and you see it and you've like
and then you're like, once the editing's done, the marketing is going to be so easy. I'm going to have this finished product, and then the marketing sucks. So it's like, why do I do this to myself? And then you're like,
it's so true.
And then it's like, I have 9 novels out there, so I've done this 9 times. Does that mean that I'm like actually insane? Because I keep
know, right?
over again.
Uh-huh.
But I love it, but it's also like so much work. And so I sometimes I get in this route where I feel like I enjoy having been written than actually the process itself.
Right.
But
like, can I just be finished with all the books now?
Yeah.
Like not actually do any of the work to make them. That would be nice.
I mean, it is the whole stereotype of the tortured artist, right? But it is absolutely true. It's like when you care about something that much, you go through all the pain. And if you're not going through the pain, then you don't really care about it. Like that's kind of, they go hand in hand.
Yeah. And for a little, I definitely do enjoy bits and parts of the process. Oh, sure. Overall,
Yeah.
The highs and lows really make you feel alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Never a dull moment.
So, we kind of just went, which is awesome, but this is a podcast. So
I was wondering, I was like, are we in the podcast right now?
Like, this is going in. Yeah, we're going to use some of this.
We were just kind of blabbing, weren't we?
But like I asked about the conference and all of a sudden, no, it's great. But I do want to make sure that you guys introduce yourselves and we know a little bit about your like backgrounds. And I also love that you're both like sipping from cups. That's a very like writerly thing to do.
Jeni and I have the unique relationship of we're business partners in a publishing company, but and we're both writers, but Jeni is my editor.
Right.
So it's like writer-editor relationship. Right now, she
somehow are still friends.
And she hasn't edited all of my books, just a few of the last one, the last 4.
You've got a comparison.
Yeah,
definitely want to talk about that. So first things first, though, please, I would love for you. Let's just start with you, Kristin. Just kind of give a little bit of your background, how you got into writing, what you're, passionate about, what books you have out, and all that kind of stuff.
So my name is Kristin Helling and I publish under Kristin Helling. I primarily write thrillers of all different kinds of genres. Subgenres. So I write, I have a couple serial killer and crime thriller books out there. I've got a sci-fi psychological thriller. I have been delving into action adventure thriller, which is kind of where I'm currently sitting at. But then I also publish under the pen name Kristin Elise, some kids books. So I had to separate my adult thrillers from my children's books. So I've got Kristin Helling and then Kristin Elise. And so, a little bit more about me, I guess. Besides the writing gig, I also own a coffee shop in North Kansas City. And I'm a mama. I have 2 young children, one that's 4 and one that's about to turn 1 this weekend, which is insane. And then I also co-own Word Wraith Books publishing company with Jeni, who we're going to hear from. So I think that's about it. I have 8 published novels, 1 on the way, and I have 2 published kids books.
Awesome. Jeni, what about you?
Well, yes. I write under J.R. Frontera, although I have 1 children's book under Jeni Frontera. Generally, I go by Jeni. However, I do publish under J.R. Frontera just because, I don't know, it sounds fancier or something. So anyway, but I write, when I started out, I wrote mostly sci-fi. My first complete published novel series was the Starship Ass series, which is about a donkey in space. Don't know what you guys are thinking of, but it's about a donkey in space.
I'm so glad you clarified. I was concerned.
Yes. So many people are like, wait, what? It's hilarious. But yes, it's like a funny space opera trilogy and had a lot of fun with that. And then the current series I'm working on will be 6 books total. I'm currently drafting book 4. That's like a weird Western, sci-fi Western series that I'm having very, very much fun with. And then I also have several short stories published in various anthologies, mostly sci-fi. I did just recently write a horror short story, which my very first official try at horror, so that was fun. That's my most recent short. But yeah, I have a short story collection out. But I've been writing my whole life in some form or another. Like Kristin said, it's a curse. I have so many times been like, why do I do this? I am sitting here spending most of my time alone at my computer. But I can't not do it. If I think about not actually doing it, I kind of get panicky, actually. Like I literally feel panic. So I guess I will just keep doing it. But it does sort of, I honestly don't know why. I always had to do it. I guess I was just so inspired by a lot of the other stories that, I was intaking myself. I was a huge reader as a kid, of course, TV shows, movies, cartoons, all these things. Then got really into Star Wars, and I just wanted to create that adventure myself, like I wanted to create my own adventure. And I wanted to say what would happen next, that kind of thing. And then I did my first nano in 2012, and that is what really got me started back into actually like finishing.
And that's
something.
NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month.
National Novel Writing Month. Yeah. And 2012 was my first try at it, and I actually won it, and I like blew my mind. Like, oh crap, I can actually write a lot of words in a month. Like that's insane. So yeah, ever since then, I didn't self-publish anything until 2015. And then the Starship Ass series came out in 2019. So technically, I've only had novels out since like 2019, which is fairly recently for, having started this in freaking 2012. But it is a lot. It's a lot. And it took a long time to sort of orient myself and figure out what I was doing and what I like to write.
My first one was 2013 because that's why we created Word Wraiths.
Right. Exactly.
Which is an interesting story.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to hear about it. Like how you guys now you guys have been friends a long time, right? Or did you just become friends because of Word Wraiths in the writing group and everything?
Yeah. So we met through writing. So we actually, we met at a UMKC, and I don't know where your podcast audience is from, but UMKC is a university in Kansas City. UMKC held a writing conference retreat type of thing. And we didn't go to that school, but it was like you could just go to the conference as, that was open to the public. And so we both went to that conference. I went with my brother, who is also a creative, and he's an actor, who, later we could talk about that or whatever, but he narrated my audiobooks. But so my brother and I went together because we were both, he wanted to get into script writing, and I was, just wanting to ignite my writing career after graduating from high school. So this was a while back. I'm in my 30s now. So, so we went to the MKC conference, and, that's where we first met. But then we were somehow we just got into talking about how we had this need for a writing group or other writers to write with. And Jeni,
local too.
Yeah, local. And Jeni invited me to her house, and we were like strangers. And she was like, "You should come."
We met like one time.
Wow. And she was like, you should come to my house. And she like gave me her address and stuff. And I was like, okay.
Do like a writing day.
Yeah, like a writing marathon day or whatever. So I went.
and you didn't even get murdered.
And that was the thing. Jeni lives out in the freaking middle of nowhere, Missouri country town. And I was like driving to her house, met her once before, and I was like on this like road that was like out in the middle of nowhere. And I was like, oh my God, like I write thrillers. Like my brain is thinking of every possible scenario of what could happen going to this house. So I go there, park in the driveway, don't even know if it's her house. She could have given me any address. She could have been like, psycho, I'm giving her some random address. And I walked up to the door and knocked, and Jeni opens the door and goes, "Oh, you came." And
I was like, there's no way she's gonna like freak out. She's gonna get scared. She's gonna be like, I'm not going to this stranger's house, you know.
In my mind, I'm like, I'm doing it. If I don't do this, I will never be a writer. So I was like, I have to do this. And then, so then we just got to talking at the table. It was me, Jeni, and another girl at the time. And we were all like, okay, so there's 3 of us. Let's each invite someone. So we each invited a writer. And that's how the Word Wraiths writing group was born. And then the publishing company branched off of that because we were getting close. Some of us were getting close, and we had the goal of being career writers. The other half of the group were kind of hobbyists that were just doing it for fun. So we kind of broke up. Essentially, the group broke in half to the hobbyists and the career authors. And Rod, which is another one of our writers, he's the third party in our publishing company. Rod, Jeni, and I were the serious career author side. And I was getting ready to publish a children's book. My first book was a children's book, and I needed ISBN numbers, which, if you're familiar with, it's the International Library of Congress or National Library of Congress, and you need to have these numbers to publish your book, but they're very expensive if you don't buy them in bulk. And when you buy them in bulk, they're very expensive.
They're still expensive.
So we were like, let's go in on these numbers together. But then we found out that whoever actually makes the purchase of the numbers, it's under their name. So we were like, let's create a business entity for these numbers to be under, and then we can share the investment, you know? And so that's how our publishing company was born. But then, you know, we saw the value in having our own company in terms of indie publishing. So we all chose as like a business decision to go indie instead of traditional. Jeni and I both delved into the traditional side, you know, query letters and all that. And, you know, Jeni, probably more than me, because you have some things traditionally published in terms of like short stories and things that you were.
Yes, I was submitting. Yeah, I was submitting a lot of shorts to like magazines and stuff. A lot. I did a lot of that. I got to the point where I wrote a query letter and stuff.
Yeah.
And to shop some publishers and agents and everything.
And pitching.
But it was kind of like,
we even both kind of pitched, I feel like, at one point to traditional.
I think we did, yeah. But it was like, it was kind of like at that point I learned a few more things that I did not know about. Like I had, ever since I was 14, I had hardcore research because, you know, at 14, like self-publishing wasn't a thing.
Right.
So, I mean, they had the vanity presses, which I almost did when I was like 16. Almost did a vanity press. Like I got their catalog and everything because, you know, it was like at the time you're like, oh, they're gonna publish my book, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, but I
am currently shooing my dad away from vanity presses. Like he keeps sending me links. Like, do you think this is a good company to publish with? And I'm like, no.
Exactly. Yeah, and there's like even more of them now than there used to be. But like, oh my gosh, yeah. So thank goodness I didn't fall for that. There was like a little, I think in the back of my head, it was like a little alarm bell. I'm just like, I don't know. So I never did that, thank goodness. But I had been I just knew everything about like the traditional publishing by that point. But then after I had my kid, I sort of, you know, got out of it because I was preoccupied. So then I was sort of like catching up again, like, okay, because things change so fast, right? In any industry, even traditional publishing, which is the slowest moving industry, I think, of all of them. But I was just like, you know, I need to refresh. And in the refreshing, I actually learned a few more things. And then I was like, I'm not comfortable with this anymore, because after I had spent years and years on Nano slaving away over this novel, all of a sudden I didn't want to give it to anyone else anymore. So, you know, it's like, I just spent all this time on this and I no longer want to give a stranger the rights to it because I don't trust them with it, essentially. You know, I do not trust them to care about it as much as I do. I don't trust them to understand it like I do. And I sure as crap am not going to accept, you know, pennies, essentially, on what it is worth.
And at the time, there were some other people that were making revolutionary moves in the indie publishing
It was right around that time. Yeah, that's true.
So we discovered a book. I don't know if you want to plug them, but Sterling and Stone wrote a book called Write, Publish, Repeat. And at the time, we both picked it up, we read it, and we were like, oh my God.
Yeah.
We could do
life changing, basically.
Yes. And so that really propelled us into seeing that there were doors open for this avenue that was never possible before, that you were blacklisted doing before.
Right, exactly.
And so we rolled with it, and that's what we did. And so that's how WordWraith Books was born. So Jeni and I are partners in WordWraith Books, and then we have a third partner, Rod, who has voting rights for the company in case Jeni and I get in an argument. But we call ourselves a story studio, though, so we don't accept submissions. We just publish ourselves.
Yeah.
So, and we have an affiliate author program that we started, but there's only one book published under it, and that's my brother's poetry. But really, that's not really what our goal is for this company.
Right. Exactly.
And so yeah, we've had WordWraith since 2014.
Yeah, I think 2014 is the first official year. Yeah.
So yeah, and we are still going
we still
with
all
it.
really like each other, so this is good.
The government
Amazing,
hasn't shut us down yet.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, we haven't.
We're making
I know,
pennies.
exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
So I'm kind of wondering, like, you guys have been in the indie publishing space for, I guess, 8 years now. How do you feel like, the industry has changed in that time period? And like, what kind of big moves are you seeing, and what do you kind of see as like the future of it?
Oh, good question.
Yeah. So I think, so when we started WordRace, I think there was that first big shift happening at that point, like around 2012, 2013, because, Kindle was getting big, self-publishing was getting big. The Write, Publish, Repeat is essentially the same concept as 20 books to 50K. So you write the books as quick as you can, you put them out like once a month, essentially. You get that rapid release, you stay, you don't fall off the Amazon cliff. And you can earn a decent living if you have enough books out there, because you just earn a couple bucks a day on each book and it adds up. But the more people that implied that strategy as happens, it gets diluted. The effectiveness gets diluted. The market got utterly slammed. I think currently there are 3 million new books published on Amazon per day.
Whoa.
Per day.
Whoa.
It's utterly ridiculous. So when you have that kind of content influx, visibility becomes nearly impossible.
Yeah.
Then you had the big ad surge. So Facebook ads, Amazon ads, that kind of thing, which did work for a while. But again, that's also getting saturated now. So it's harder to get traction. It's trickier. I feel like right now we're on the crest of another shift right now. Just like I said, I've been talking to different authors in my groups, and I'm seeing more and more of them, getting fed up with Amazon. They're getting frustrated with the visibility issues.
I was going to ask if you were headed towards the direct sales route.
Yes, exactly. That's where people are going. So now so many more authors are realizing, hey, I don't want to hook my cart to a horse I don't control, right?
Yeah.
So they're like, Amazon can do whatever they want. I have no control. Facebook can do whatever they want. I have no control. And they're just getting really frustrated. So I'm seeing so many more authors now sort of pull back from what has been so popular for the last decade or so. And they're shifting more to, trying to create better relationships with their readers. They're trying to get more direct sales so that they have full control, and also get better royalties.
Yeah.
And, they're like going into more platforms like Kickstarter. So that's like I think the new direction, like things are kind of shifting. And again, I think now the good thing about direct sales is that, you don't have to worry about somebody publishing 3 million books to your store a day.
Yeah.
Right. That's never going to happen. So that's the good thing about that. You do still, of course, have to find the people though to
Yep.
bring them to your store. So I think that will continue to be the challenge.
Yep.
But I do think it's going to get more reliant on the direct sales platforms like Kickstarter, which is still more of a direct sales than like Amazon. And then, you know, authors just being, I don't know, just engaging more with the audience. I feel like I think it's going to take a little bit more of a personal touch in the future. It's not going to just be this mass sort of thing. It's going to have to be more individual, I think.
Yeah, and you couldn't have said it better, because in the example of Amazon, people feel like they've figured out the algorithm, and the moment they get close or they figure it out, it's flipped on its head and it's changed. And Amazon can do that whenever they want, because Amazon is in the business of making money. So they don't want people to figure out what their algorithms are. So it's a constantly fluid thing. And it's like, you can't figure it out. And I feel like the people that are first to the new scene of what's going to work are the ones that are successful. And then everybody follows suit. And then a really good example of that is, you know, offering a free story or something. The market got, what Jeni said, so saturated with free that people were just downloading the free books, putting them on their Kindle, but never reading them because they had too many that they put on their Kindles. And then, so they don't have time to read them. And then you're not getting sell through because they're not even reading the free book you gave out.
Exactly.
And so it's like, yeah, it's just, you have to kind of always be on your toes and not be afraid to try new things, because that new thing that you try could be the next new thing.
Yeah,
exactly. And it's like when Kindle Vella came out, you know, a whole bunch of authors jumped on it right away to try to be those first people that it might work for. And I don't think it worked very well for pretty much anyone, which is unfortunate. But then, so at the end of last year, Kickstarter sort of became a new thing because Russell Nohelty and Monica Lionel, they sort of came together and wrote a book, Get Your Book Selling on Kickstarter. And they ran a Kickstarter for it, which was very meta. So, but it did fantastic. And they sort of caught my attention in Vegas last year, and I went to all the Kickstarter panels and stuff. And I was sort of like, I don't know, because, you know, talking about trying all the strategies that all these other people have tried, right? Literally none of them ever worked for me. Like I couldn't get anything that anyone else tried would ever work. And I was getting kind of frustrated, but I just sort of settled into like, well, you know, you have to forge your own path. So I'm like, I'm going to just write these books that are like this, and I'm going to find the readers that like that. And it's going to be slow and painful, but I'm just going to stick with it. Right. But I sort of got convinced. I was like, okay, I'll try it. So in Vegas last year, I got convinced to give Kickstarter a try. So then I've done 2 Kickstarters this year, and both of them were very, oh, hang on, I'll pause for a second. I can't stop this sound. Can you guys hear that?
Yeah, we can hear.
Oh no. All right, hang on a second.
I thought it was like mood music to your story. I'm like, oh,
we're getting pulled in.
Drama.
Gosh,
the drama. That's hilarious.
Wow.
I love it. Okay, there we go. Let me see if that helps. Okay. Yeah. I don't even remember. Oh yeah.
2 Kickstarters.
So, yeah, I did two Kickstarters this year. The second one was a collaboration though. I wouldn't even really count that as mine, but I ended up doing like a chunk of work actually on it. So I guess I'll sort of call like half, not even half, it was like a third mine. But anyway, the point is, those both did so much better than I ever would have thought. Like it was the very first thing I ever tried that like actually worked for me. And I was like so excited. And now, of course, like, especially since Brandon Sanderson ran a Kickstarter and like raised millions, that was insane. So now other authors are kind of like, wait a minute. So, you know,
I was going to ask, like, is that going to get, like, that's going to be the next thing that's going to be saturated, right? In the next couple of years, Kickstarter, like, because, yeah, once Sanderson did that and made $42 million, people are going to be like, this is how we make money. And it's just going to be a disaster.
Yeah.
So,
which I will say that, yes. And I will say that you can't just throw anything on Kickstarter and make money from it. I think a lot of people are like, oh, that's the next get rich quick scheme.
Yeah.
No. Like, no.
Jeni is a bit of a Kickstarter hipster because she was doing it before it was cool. She was starting her campaign and she was like literally almost completely finished.
I was in the middle of it, I think.
About to launch, and then Sanderson launched, and then Jenny's like, no, people are gonna think I'm copying Sanderson and I was doing this first.
I was so mad. And that's what I was mad about too. Like nothing else. I was just mad that everyone's gonna think that I'm trying to copy him now. I was like, no, I was doing it first.
And that's our show for this time. I'm sorry I have to cut it off, but you are really going to love part 2, where Jeni is going to share her epic quest to acquire her dream audiobook narrator. And then, because this is the Edibuddies podcast, we will talk about editing a little bit. If you're interested in checking out Kristin or Jeni's books, I will leave both their websites in the show notes. Of course, if you want to contact the show, you can send an email to edibuddiespod@gmail.com. And if you're an author looking for editing services, you can reach out to me on my website, midwrite.com, or on my Instagram @midwriteworlds. That's MIDWRITE Worlds. See you next month for part 2.